Welcome to Prepper Talk Radio. For those of you who are watching online, you'll see we have a cool new background on our show, and that's pretty awesome. At least that's what I'm seeing. We're live on YouTube and we're live on Facebook. And so for those of you who are with us live, we're excited to have you on to comment and make suggestions and be part of the conversation as we go. For those of you who are listening, we're grateful for that as well. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. We wanted to just make sure that you guys know that we're excited to bring to you our radio for the ready-minded, where we focus on God, family, and country. Today, this episode is brought to you by Patriot Switch. We want to share with you, if you're sick and tired or getting sick and tired of spending your money with these woke companies that are having agendas or following the globalist agenda to change around some of the things that we're doing in this world, then I think that it's time to switch and vote with our dollars. It's time to start using our money, putting our money where our mouth is, so to speak, and buying American-made products and services. And whether or not you click on the link in the description or go to patriotswitch.com/peppertalk, I suggest that you just start buying more things that are American made. So we're excited to bring that to you. So if you want to know what we're doing, click the link in the description below, or go to patriotswitch.com/preppertalk, and we'll reach out to you and let you know more about what we're doing. So today we're going to talk about beyond survival or legacy prepping. So
I really wanted to talk about this because, what's the point of just surviving?
Yeah.
Why prep at all? This kind of goes back to the very foundational reasons why I prep. It's not just for me, it's for my family, my kids. But then you look beyond that and you're like, my wife, my kids, my grandkids, who I don't even know yet, my great grandkids. I look back, as Shane likes to say, and he's not here with us tonight. He's on a family trip, but he likes to say, look to the past to prepare for the future. And I look at my posterity and I look at my ancestry and I'm like, it's one eternal round. Like, it's one big circle. Like, I go back 4 generations when they were I shouldn't say just, but when they were farming barley and wheat farmers in Idaho. And when I go further back than that, like, there was so much to be said about a sustainable lifestyle, and everyone's like all about, oh, we need a sustainable lifestyle. We need a carbon footprint change. We got to do all this and that. And it's like, you go back 100 years and they were so sustainable. We're not even close to that because we're so consumer driven and we're so focused on me, my, mine. Oh, I got to get the new car. Oh, I got to get the new gun. And well, I don't know if there's anything wrong with that part, but I got to get the new Halo game or what. I probably just dated myself. Like, you got to get the new Fortnite. There we go.
Now you're up to date. But that's so true. Like, how many times growing up in a family that you would go out and work with your dad, or you'd go out and work with your uncle, and the whole family was involved in making sure that the farm, was built, or even closer to that, where everybody was in charge of helping out with the yard, the garden and the yard work and everything like that. So many of the youth today don't even know what it is to have a strong work ethic. They just, they're so entitled. Bring me my sandwich, or bring me my food, or, do that. I'm like, no, you go get your own sandwich. It's my kids. Whenever my kids tell me, I'm like, look, you're old enough now. You can get your own daggum food out of where it is. And what we have. It's the same stuff every week, unless you tell us you want to buy something new at the grocery store, but it's the same stuff. So, one of the things that really kind of brought this on for me was I was listening to somebody talk about the importance of creating a sustainable, and I'm not talking about the globalist version of sustainable. I'm talking about a legit sustainable community that even if the crap hits the fan and and you need to get into your food storage or your water storage, what happens when that goes away? What are you creating to replenish that, so that you're not diminishing your resources without replenishing those resources? And you're going to end up getting stuck if you don't have some way to renew or replenish those resources. And that's something that a lot of people, when they get into prepping, I think they just focus in on, one thing. When I first started, it was, I want to save my life. Well, now the next thing was I want to save my wife's life. And then the next thing was I want to save my kid's life. But surviving through a disaster is one thing. But if the disaster is like an earthquake or something simple that will eventually end, then you're going to go back to a normal scenario with the community. But when the community, if we have what it's being predicted, or if we have an EMP or some kind of or the internet outage or some other thing, we could be months and months without the traditional store or the traditional distribution systems. And so we need to be able to sustain ourselves through that and continue to survive as a community and thrive after that. After the survival phase is over and we're settling in, we need to be able to thrive and be able to figure out how to sustain that. Make sense?
Exactly. Are you familiar with? Okay, we've talked about trees in our last episode, fruit trees and gardens and stuff. But are you familiar with how long it takes nut trees to start producing nuts?
No, but usually trees are like a season or 2 or 3 sometimes. So I don't know if
So
nuts are.
nut trees are like 20 plus years in many cases.
Oh, wow.
Like, but I heard this thing years ago and it stuck with me. It's like, if you want to plant a tree that will continue to give long past you're gone and provide for your family, you plant a nut tree. If you want to plant a tree that's going to feed you for the next, 20, 30 years, you plant a fruit tree. And if you want to plant something that's going to feed you right now, it's potatoes and everything else in the garden and stuff like that. Like they a regular fruit tree doesn't kick in for a couple of years, usually 3-4 years, depending on when you get it or how you get it or whatever you do. But like a nut tree takes 20 plus years, but then it's just nuts, 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 lots of nuts and nuts. That's what prepping is about. It's like you've got to start. You think about the gardening is the immediate, right? Or the food storage is the immediate. The garden is the next season. The fruit tree is the season after that. The nut trees are for 20 years from now. Your kids, or oh, and then you to Mike. Olive trees. You're planning for you're planning those for your grandchildren, right? You're creating in prepping, you're creating a legacy if you're doing it right. You're creating a legacy. You're not just prepping by yourself, but you're teaching your wife, or if you're one of the ladies, you're teaching her husband, or if you're not married yet, you're going to find someone, or connect with the community, and you're
You should
helping each
find someone.
other, right? And then you start procreating and you have these little tiny monsters who mean the world to you, like mine do to me, and you don't want them to go without, but you don't want them to be spoiled, right? So you focus on
Mhm.
things that are going to last from generation to generation, and that's what prepping really is. It's teaching how to sustain from generation to generation. My farmer great grandparents and beyond, look at me now. Like I'm off the farm. But those skills, the things that they learned how to do and the way they survived, that's what's going to take us through the next generation again. And
Yeah.
without it, we might not make it.
Yeah, we are providing for and establishing the foundation of the next generation, and that's how the human race is supposed to be. That we're as preppers, if you think
Mhm.
about it, we want to take what we've learned, impart it to the next generation, and hopefully they use that as a foundation and they stand on our shoulders to stand higher and
Mhm.
to continue to have progress. Now I love progress. I love moving forward and innovating and finding new things. However, it shouldn't be done at the cost of the things that work and have worked for generations and for hundreds of years and even thousands of years in many cases. There's things that work, and those things maybe we can improve on it a little bit, but man, you don't want to take away the foundational things that work and change those out for things that aren't going to either experiments. You can experiment while you're going, but man, you got to have some foundation going that's solid. And that's, to me, especially in America where we have a strong foundation, our founding fathers. One of the things that's why we started off with our mantra about God, family, and country. That those are the kind of the 3 foundational things. If you don't teach morals, if you don't, through godly types of teaching, then how do we survive as a community? How do we survive as a society? even long term, where we're trying to thrive through, when it's no emergencies, we're just living. And then our country, like we founded, our founding fathers built, regardless of some of the things that they may have or may have done individually, but they built a brilliant system. In my opinion, this is the best, I should say, what do they call it? The best experiment in freedom that any country's
Yeah.
ever been able to have. And look where we've come. And that creates, if I have a solid, strong foundation, I know I can build my children, I can raise my children without having to worry about, where am I going to get the next meal, or where am I going to, all those types of things. It's just having a good, strong society is so helpful and so important.
It's funny because it's like we're in that cycle now where hard men created good times. Good times have now created weak men, and weak men are creating. We're in the throes of the hard times.
Yeah.
And if we don't become hard ourselves, if we don't start working harder and doing more, we're not going to make it through this next cycle.
Yeah. We're not.
And there's many organizations that are trying to make it so that we don't, which tells me we need to work even harder to get through it. And I'm grateful to the legacy that my family's created. We've always talked about a year's supply of food. We've always talked about a year's pantry, right? A year's storehouse, more than just the food. It's the cleaning products. It's having extra socks and underwear. I know that sounds like the funniest thing, but it's like, you really want to know if your economy is bad or not? Look at the men's underwear. When economic times are at their worst, men don't buy underwear anymore, and they just keep reusing.
Really?
It's a fascinating study I saw years ago, but the more holes means the harder economy we have.
Interesting. There
Women
was
will
a,
buy underwear in a down economy, but men don't.
huh.
Isn't that
I
crazy?
saw a meme about that the other day, and I didn't understand it. And so now it makes more sense.
Yeah. If you want to know how hard times are, look at men's underwear. I know it sounds really weird, but the more holes, the harder life is. Utah Mike, Commando, right? That, it's easy to afford to go commando, right? But that's survival, in my
That's
opinion. I'd
funny.
rather have something comfortable. So now look at it in more than just prep. You're also looking at, okay, legacy. What am I teaching? What kind of values am I going to perpetuate from generation to generation? What did my parents teach me that I'm going to continue on? Like, every family has kind of their thing,
Mm-hmm.
like their traditions, if you will. And it's like, other than holidays, what are our traditions?
Yeah. Are you teaching those traditions, and are you creating some for yourself? Because one of the things too, when my wife and I got married, we decided that we were going to pull the best from our individual families,
Mhm.
and then we were going to think about new traditions we wanted to create for with just our family. And we've had some successes and we've had some failures, but that's how life is, where you do your best and you go for it, and then you realize, wait a minute, that probably didn't work as well as I thought or hoped, and you move on to the next thing. But this really, the idea that prepping is for an event, or prepping is for a specific scenario, like I'm a prepper for earthquakes, or I'm a prepper for tornadoes, I'm a prepper for floods. That's great to be prepared for a thing, and then you'll survive it because you've got the gear, you've got the equipment, you have maybe some skill sets designed specifically for that. However, when if let's just say that everything went to crap, and we have a pretty good idea that it's probably going to go to crap. If
Yep.
if somebody came to you and said, "Look, we need to establish a country or a nation," would you know enough about how our founding fathers established America, established the United States, to be able to build something equivalent? Or or you be like, ah, man, I don't know. Or if all the Bibles were burned and you needed to teach the next generation about God and Christ and Christianity, would you have enough knowledge in your mind, in your head, to be able to teach that and prepare the next generation without those resources? And sometimes that's where the skill sets come in. And those are the things that I think about.
Yep.
Is if everything went to crap and somebody called upon me to lead the next wave of success in human endeavor, would I be someone that could lead that? Like, not that I necessarily want to be or will be, but I want to be somebody that's capable of it, that could be called upon, and I will be a resource to the community rather than a hinderment.
Right.
And to
Yeah.
me,
Be a
that's part of
benefit as
being a
opposed
prepper.
to an anchor. Am I weighing them down? Am I a drag on the economy? Am I a problem, or am I part of the solution?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's funny because it's like you and your wife created your own traditions for your family, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, before this episode, we were talking a little bit about goals and how I'm like, I have not set real good goals lately.
Uh-huh.
And I'm thinking about this. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is right in line. Like, what is your goal for prepping? Is it just to survive? Is it to make it 3 weeks and be done? Like, or is it to really have longevity and generational longevity? Like, you look at the financial planners and they're always talking, because you're one of them.
Mm-hmm.
They're always talking about legacy money, right? Retire, but then what am I going to leave to the next generation?
Yeah.
That's when you've done something superior. It's and Garrett, good old Garrett. Oh, I just bumped it out.
We keep clicking.
Being prepared isn't a phase; it's a lifestyle. Like it's a lifestyle. It's a legacy. It's a continuance, right? Am I wanting to survive 3 weeks, 90 days, 120, or am I wanting to build something that's going to last centuries?
I mean, I just, not that this scenario will actually happen, but something similar could very well happen. But we've read, 1 Second After. We've read the Going Home series by the Angry American. We've read some of these other books that are out there about surviving, and their real life. They're real. It's fiction, but it's fiction based on things that could actually happen. And so if you're just going to be like, I just got to make it 3 weeks until the next shipment of goods come into the local grocery store. If I just survive 3 weeks, I'll be okay. Well, when 3 weeks comes and goes and there's still no shipment because things are really that bad, you're going to start to have mental breakdowns. But if you're prepared to say, you know what, I don't even like, if you're prepared in such a way that you could just live your life because you have the skills, you have the gear, you have the knowledge, man, who cares if the roads are busted up and you have another shipment to the local grocery store? You got plenty of food in your pantry. You got plenty of seeds in your stockpile, and you've got methods. You've searched your neighborhood, your area, your community, your local geography. You know where to go to get water. You know where to go to. You know who in the community can do what, and you guys just say, you know what, this might be forever. This might be what life is from here on out. And if you're ready for it and you're prepared for it, you're going to just have so much more of a peaceful transition than the guy who's freaking out because he thinks he's going to I just got to make it for the first week or 2 or 3. Anyways, that's what I'm thinking.
Well, it's like, okay, going back to the goal statement. How long do you want to last?
Yeah.
My goals have been pretty crappy, so I haven't done a lot of the things I've wanted to do or that I have ambitions to have happen in my life. Like, you want a higher quality of life now, you've got to actually work towards those goals and completing things. You want a higher quality of life in and through crap hitting the fan, you have to do the work now.
Yeah.
You have to set up your playbook. You've got to set up what that heritage is going to look like. And I until this conversation, I haven't really thought of it this way. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm doing some good things, but I need to do a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And not to overwhelm anybody. Like, we can all be doing more. But am I spending too much time watching TV? 100%. Am I spending not enough time with my kids out building things? 100%. I'm not spending enough time with them. I spend a lot of good quality time with them, but teaching them, getting them involved in something, getting them excited about something, getting them to the point where they want to carry this tradition on to their kids, not just because it's something that's helpful, but because the reason behind it is something they're adopting. and they're holding to.
Yeah, they recognize it as a way of life,
Mm-hmm.
not just something crazy my dad does. Like that's like sometimes I talk to my kids and they get it. They know. So I don't have to really kind of have they validate the fact that they realize that, hey, dad's guiding our family in a good way. But sometimes I still want to have that moment of, and this is something that we all need to kind of think about in our prepping community, because sometimes we want the crap to hit the fan so that we can show that we were right, and that
Right.
I told you, and I'm not crazy, but the reality is that if whether the crap hits the fan or not, are you prepared to continue life and to continue to grow? Are you the kind of leader that in your family and in your community, that regardless of what happens, you're that guy who just consistently moves forward doing exactly what you're supposed to do, and just is in all and understands that there's a philosophy about focusing in. We always want to, in today's life, it's so easy to specialize because we have so many people that sometimes it's better to specialize. But I really love that old saying, a jack of all trades is a master of none. But the rest of the quote is what most people don't realize. And it goes along the lines of something, but somebody who only has one, what was the rest of it? I actually forgot. Sorry, Scott.
So the jack of all trades and a master of none is still always better than a master of one.
Yes, thank you. And
What's
that,
funny too is like I'm ADHD like crazy, and so I'm really good at a lot of things, but I'm not expert level.
mhm,
But I'm good at a lot of things because I will focus on it and get good at it. You'll never get good if you don't focus on it.
yeah. Utah Mike, I'm always moving, sometimes in circles.
Well, that's probably because one leg's longer than the other. Like I've got the same problem. I got a slight limp to the left, so I'm doing big circles.
But that's what I'm saying, is that one of my big things is not just, don't be so focused on one area of life that you get out of balance, because it's
Mm.
so easy to get out of balance. There's a lot of people that I know that are like, man, they want to be wealthy and they want to be rich and they want to have all this money and they want to have all these things. And is it possible to be wealthy and rich and have abundance in wealth and have a strong, good family? Yeah. But and I totally believe that people should be wealthy, and good people need to have a ton of money, because good people will do good things with that ton of money. We have way too many tyrants and way too many people that are doing bad things with all the money that they have. And so we need to have more good people with money. But you sometimes see that in the pursuit of wealth, they forget about their kids, or they forget about their wife, and the divorce rates that are super high, and the just fatherless families. And it's not worth it to me. It's not worth it. If you want to have a strong legacy, to me, wealth and true wealth to me is having a wife that loves me and children that look up to me and you want me as an example in their life, and look to me as an example in their life. That to me is the real way to live. And that's real wealth. And so if you can teach your kids to, pass that legacy on, but then also be a leader in your community. Because one of the things that's the coolest that when I've talked to my children about this, one of the things that kind of really helps them out is that when they see the neighbors or people in the community look to me as somebody that they can, as a strong, not that I'm always a leader, but I'm always there. I'm ready and willing, and I'm looking to help whenever I can, wherever I can, even if I'm not the leader and I'm under a leader that's guiding and directing. I'll just tell me what to do and I'll go do it. And I'll do my part,
Yeah.
and I'll lift where I stand. And my kids are like, Dad, you have a great work ethic. You have a great, it's just that example. I think that's something that's critical for, to leave a legacy, and not just for your kids, but everybody. When everybody in a community sees that kind of work ethic, everybody else feels edified, and they all want to
Mhm.
rise up to this, to it. That's what I think.
Well, it's funny because like you made me think of a quote I heard last week. It's um, make yourself your most important project.
Oh, that's excellent.
Like I know so many friends. I've got so many friends that are like, oh yeah, I got a project car. Oh, I got this. I'm working on that. I'm working on this. It's like they're building something with that, right? But at the same time, they're building themselves. And we talked about the master, a jack of all trades, right? The
Mhm.
jack of all trades is someone who's always working on themselves.
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because like I look at my childhood and I'm like, Dad, you could fix this, or Dad can fix that, or oh, Dad can build this and Dad can build that. And
Yep.
and there's so many things that I admire my father for because of the great things he did, but that he did it with love and with purpose, and he helped me. And so it's like the thing that I want to look forward to and say, okay, what will my kids remember about me? I want them to know I absolutely loved them without a doubt.
Yeah.
And that all the times I go to work and I sacrifice my time and my effort and my pain and my enjoyment and everything else to put food on the table, that's something that they're like, wow, he did that because he loves us. But also always see me improving. I want them when right now my oldest is 6, but I want her when she sees me in 2 years, it should be a better version of me than it was today. And I want her to see that and remember that and acknowledge that. And in 10 years, it's it better than a few years later, right?
Yeah,
Or before.
exactly.
And in 20 years, better than it was at 10 years. And in 30 years, it's better than it was in 20 years.
Mhm.
Like, that's the whole point of this entire life, is for us to continually improve and become better and better. And if we're not doing that, why are we even here? You, your desire to survive is kind of fruitless, pointless, because
Yeah.
what are you doing it for?
So, not to, along those same lines, is that as a father and to me as a prepper, we need to not just be aware of ways for us to build and kind of be an edifying force, but also recognize who might be an enemy to that, or who might be somebody that will try to destroy that. And right now in the world, we're seeing so many people, so much corruption, and so much of the enemy really gaining ground, and it can be disconcerting, and it's definitely disconcerting and disheartening in many ways. But the great news is that, as we know as Christians, that Christ is going to win, and he's going to take over, and we're going to be fine. But in the meantime, what team are you on? But as I start to, I don't want to get too far off track from where I wanted to go with this, but the idea is that we need to realize that there is an enemy. There's somebody out there that wants to destroy our freedoms. They want to take away our freedoms. And by doing so, they want to take away and destroy our families. There's a real concerted effort right now to really take, in our school system, there's a concerted effort to disparage the traditional family.
Yep.
In our world today, we're seeing that the traditional family is under attack, and they're trying to create all these just new ideologies. Frankly, a religion of secularism, if you will. And so it's important to recognize, yes, we need to build a community and we need to build it strong, but we also need to recognize who our enemies are. I think it was Sun Tzu who wrote The Art of War, who talked about if in order to defeat your enemy, you need to know about him as much as possible.
Yep.
And so it's important as preppers to also recognize and build defenses against anybody and anything that would come after your safety and your peace and your family and your preps. Like we've talked about werewolf preppers. I mean, that's just one level of people that'll come after you if you're not prepared and not ready. But what about all the people that are coming after to destroy our government? I mean, shoot, I just took a course on the Constitution, and it's a free course through John Birch Society, by the way. I'll probably put a link in our Facebook group or somewhere, because I highly recommend everybody take that course. But that was one of the lessons in there, was knowing your enemy, knowing who is fighting against our country to change it and to get it to change. And so we don't want it to change. I don't want it to change anyways. And so I think it's important to not just build a legacy, but also to teach your children to recognize that there's going to be people that are going to try to stop you, and to learn to realize how to deal with that as well.
Well, there's got to be opposition in all things. We're promised that in the scriptures. If you want joy, if you want to really understand joy and experience joy, you have to have gone through sorrow,
Yeah.
right? If you want to understand gain, you have to lose something to really understand it.
Yeah.
It's so true. Like the things that you're given, you don't appreciate as much as the things that you worked for.
That's true. That's big time true.
And that's how joy and happiness work. It's things you have to work for. You work through the hard times to really appreciate the good.
Mhm.
And then you take that opportunity and you reinvest during the good times to get through the bad times and to
Yep.
become more and more resilient. And you just keep getting better and better and creating a longer lasting, more enjoyable existence.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that, you're going to be miserable a lot.
Yeah.
And
Especially, you gotta learn how to do it properly so that you can, um human behavior is hard to deal with, and so you
Mhm.
gotta really understand human behavior, but then you also have to, unfortunately, deal with all the psychopaths that are out there too, that are trying to go against you. So, there's a lot to being, um and that's part of waking up. That's part of
Yeah.
waking up to the situation that's around you and being aware. I just did a pa I was, thankfully, I was a part of a panel of for Father's Day. There's a lady that had me on her podcast to kind of honor fatherhood and honor proper roles of masculinity.
Mhm.
And we talked a lot about this. And one of the guys that was on the panel, he's a military guy, and he talked about, he just went through some statistics about fathers outside the home and the crime rates of, just different, just communities that have these issues and these problems. He just went through a ton of statistics, and some of those I was like, wow, how many of us just go to work, we wake up, we get ready, we go to work, we talk to the same people every day, we come home, we eat dinner, we sit on the couch, we turn on the TV, we do the same thing day in and day out. No wonder we're being taken over. What? No wonder so many things are slipping through under the radar. How many times have you guys, heard somebody on social media now and in TikTok, thankfully, and some of these other places, they're like, "Hey, meanwhile, while you're being distracted over here with UFOs, Hunter Biden is getting away with murder," or
Right.
something like, and we're like, "What? Wait, what? Like who? Wait, what?" Like honestly, I mean, I'm not trying to get into too many political things right now, but that's something that's actually part of this whole thing, is that you've got to be somebody that can say, you know what? Um, and one of the great things they talked about was, one of the questions I got was, "What are you doing? Is your child allowed to still go into public schools?" And I said, "Yeah." And they're like, "Well, what do you do with all the things that are trying to be, shoved down our kids' throat in the public school system?" And I was like, honestly, it gives me an opportunity to talk to my son, because he brings it home. He's like, "Dad, this is what they're saying, or this is what they did, or this is what my friends are talking about." And now I can have a conversation and I can communicate with him. And I think that's in prepping, especially in prepping, communication is key. And I'm not just talking about ham radios. I'm not talking about, having, satellite radios. I'm talking about communicating with your family, your individual, your neighbors, having conversations with them, getting to know who they are and what they're about, because that's going to really build that community and build that friendship. I think communication is pretty awesome, pretty key to anything in life.
It's funny because, like, at work today, I was super frustrated because of the lack of communication on basic fundamentals of the job. And it really helped prime for this stream tonight, because I'm like, yeah, if we're not communicating our intentions and the process flows on doing things, and if we're not communicating that other people matter to us, they're not gonna grow with us. They're not gonna continue on
Yeah.
with us. Like, I
It's like
know so many
it's like
kids
trying to
who,
grow a plant without watering it.
well, okay, here's the crazy thing. In our last episode, you talked about how someone needs to invent something to so that you don't hear the birds. So the birds stop chirping at 4 a.m.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So here's a fantastic thing I learned last month. Do you know that plants hear?
What?
Yes, plants
Oh,
hear.
wait, I did see
So
that.
there's a science
Didn't we?
behind this. If you play good music, the plants will grow stronger. If you play music with a heavy and fast tempo, they don't grow as well. But here's a really interesting thing. Birds get up and chirp before the sun is up. And when they do that, it actually opens this little listening receptor in the plants, which then allows them to absorb more sunlight and more energy and more nutrients during the day.
That's awesome.
Which I'm just like, I still am kind of like, how the heck does that work? But there's a purpose and reason to everything, right? It
Yeah.
goes back to all divine creation. You can tell me all day long that you believe that we are a product of Big Bang. But until it is duplicatable by science, it's a theory. And
Yeah.
theories are as good as a rock. It's just going to be dropped, in my
Hmm.
opinion. It's going to weigh me down. It's not going to help me. But understanding how things work, and that so many things work together for our benefit and our good. Like, come on, man. Like, there's so many things that give us a greater sense of who we are and a greater sense of purpose in life. And if you look at it from a God-centric scenario, my belief system is that God lives and he sent his son Jesus Christ to save the world. That if we follow him, we can know our Father and know all of his creations and know everything, right?
Yeah. I love it.
That's the biggest part of my legacy that I want to create and keep for my kids. Without that, what's the point?
Yeah.
There's a greater purpose and a greater sense of reason on why we're all going through the daily things. But like, I've got to communicate that to them in ways that they're going to understand. Like, you've got to communicate with your kids,
Hmm.
and everyone that's listening and everyone that's participating, you've got to communicate with your kids. And oh, Kim, this is great. If we speak kind words to our plants to make them grow stronger, I think how much more we should speak kindly to other humans. Thank you.
Amen to that.
Absolutely amen to that. Like, that's who are you to the nicest to? Hopefully it's your spouse and your kids. Let's let's make sure that we stay that way. I was at Home Depot the other day and I saw a mother screaming at her children. I don't know if it was because she'd gotten to the end of her rope and they were just being horrible, or if she was just horrible. But
Yeah.
I would hope that we can all just talk kinder to our kids. My kid was having a meltdown right before I started this episode, and I could have yelled at him. I could have been a jerk, but what kind of legacy would that create?
Hmm.
If I want him to listen to me about prepping, I got to have him listen to me about calming down.
Yeah. You create the environment. That's what most people think, that the environments create us, and that there is some part of that, but we create our environments. And so if we have some leadership, we have some proactivity in our
Mhm.
life, and that's part of being a prepper too, is being proactive about the things that are important to us in our life, and getting out and getting after it, and not just waiting for things to be happening. Being reactive is not a prepper. It's not part of the prepper credo, in my opinion. Being
Yeah.
proactive is. And
Well,
wow.
this just came to me too. Is you've probably heard this quote: "Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care."
Oh, I love that one. Yeah.
You know, the more we can care about things, the more we can value things that are good, the better our life's going to be, and the better our legacy is going to be for our kids, grandkids. You know, hopefully 10 generations from now, they're still like, "Oh man, great great grandpa Scott, he was the man. If it weren't for him, we wouldn't all be here." You know, like, then where did he learn it from? Right? From following God and his parents and grandparents and great grandparents. So
That's
that's
why I
that's
think
what I want to leave with you guys, is just take the good that you've learned from the generations before, carry those good traditions on to create even better traditions going forward.
absolutely. Well, we'll end with that. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for being a part of the show tonight. We are Prepper Talk Radio, radio for the ready-minded, where we focus on God, family, and country. Today, we were talking about leaving a legacy, being prepared, uh, not just surviving, but thriving, learning how to live sustainably beyond survival. And we're super excited. Just a quick reminder for those of you who would like to know more about the importance of gold and silver, we have a great resource for you with ITM Trading. Go to learn.it as in Tom, M as in Mary, itmtrading.com/prepper talk, and schedule a call. It's a free consultation with those guys. They're going to talk to you about why gold and silver are important, why it is an important part of your portfolio and going forward. They have a lot of knowledge, got a lot of great educating. There's no obligation, and it's a free phone call to be able to, once you go to that website, there's a phone number there that you can call and schedule a call with them. So please go do that. It'll help support the show. And more importantly, it'll help you get more educated and be better prepared with your financial situation. So thank you guys again for being on the show. We look forward to seeing you next week, and spread the word, share the word, so that we can have more and more people on our live with us. Talk to you then. Take care, and have a great week.